be available on the Chamber's website. And we ask that you hold all of your questions until the end, but you can enter them in the chat as we go. Today's roundtable is hosted by the Workforce Board Lehigh Valley and the Greater Lehigh Valley Chamber of Commerce. Today's conversation will be facilitated by Denise Mayatico, the Vice President of Public Policy and External Affairs for the Lehigh Valley Chamber. With that, I would like to turn it over to Sarah Lutz, the Assistant Executive Director of Workforce Board Lehigh Valley.
Great. Thank you so much, Isabel. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for joining us for our final Engage Roundtable of the season. I want to begin by thanking Tony, Denise, and the Greater Lehigh Valley Chamber of Commerce for facilitating these conversations over the past several months. Thanks to Engage funding from the PA Department of Community and Economic Development, we've had the opportunity to explore a variety of important topics, including mentorship and succession planning, workplace wellness, the Workforce Board Lehigh Valley's healthcare industry partnership, and the high school seniors only job fair, talent acquisition for hospitality careers, artificial intelligence and hiring and recruiting, and now today, Allentown Works. And a special thanks to Denise. Denise dove in headfirst in her new role at the Chamber, and we're incredibly grateful for her passion and enthusiasm and leadership as our moderator throughout this series. So I'm excited to welcome you all to today's session focused on Allentown Works. And without giving too much away before our presenters begin, the City of Allentown received a $20 million federal award from the U.S. Economic Development Administration through its Recompete pilot program, which has been locally rebranded as Allentown Works. And this is an incredible accomplishment. Only 5 communities across the entire United States receive funding for their projects, so just let that sink in. And the Workforce Board Lehigh Valley is proud to serve as a lead partner in the Allentown Works initiative alongside the City of Allentown, the Allentown Economic Development Corporation. And as you'll hear from our speakers today, this project is truly going to take a village. And I would argue that the Lehigh Valley is one of the best examples of what can happen when a community comes together around a shared vision. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Denise, to kick things off. I know we have a jam-packed schedule and with our presenters and conversation today. So thank you very much for everyone for joining today's discussion.
Thank you, Sarah. And I agree, we've got a great program for everyone today. So welcome to today's session of the Engage Roundtable series. Allentown Works is a relatively new program that is unlocking the power of our community by removing barriers and building bridges to economic opportunity, education, training, and job stability that will help individuals and families thrive. Allentown Works is a connector between the City of Allentown, Allentown Economic Development Corporation, local employers, nonprofits, institutions, and community organizations. Together, this initiative is designed to support Allentonians in accessing high-quality childcare, workforce training, education, enhanced transportation options, and local jobs to help Allentown work better for everyone. Allentown Works is removing barriers to employment by leveraging opportunity, collaboration, and connection within our community to help us all advance together. To tell us more about the program, its inception and vision, it's my pleasure to introduce the City of Allentown Planning Director, Jennifer Gomez. Jennifer joined the City of Allentown as the Planning and Zoning Director in 2023. As a proud Lehigh Valley native, she has more than 20 years of planning experience with expertise in planning management, land development, zoning code preparation, and land use regulation. Jennifer directs and manages the city's Planning and Zoning Bureau, leading a team responsible for planning, zoning, floodplain, and historic preservation, all in support of the city's comprehensive plan, Vision 2030, and Allentown Works. Prior to joining Allentown, Jennifer worked in South Florida, where she led a wide range of planning initiatives, including comprehensive and strategic planning, zoning text amendments, corridor studies, transit-oriented development, redevelopment, sustainability, historic preservation, affordable housing, public art, and grant management. Jennifer holds a master's degree in international development from the University of Pittsburgh Graduate School of Public and International Affairs. She grew up on North 8th Street in Center City, Allentown, and we are so pleased she has returned home to lead this initiative. Jennifer, I'll turn it over to you.
Oh, thank you very much for that very kind introduction. But again, Jennifer Gomez, I'm the city's planning director. A lot of the things that we do on a day-to-day basis is planning, zoning, floodplain, historic preservation, and all of our activities then support our city's comprehensive plan, Vision 2030. And it's exciting the way that Allentown Works allowed us to take those economic development initiatives that are listed throughout our original visioning documents in a really meaningful way. And before I go further, I'll just say I'm here with Huda Hagos. She's a planner here and really critical person, a strategic person connecting all of the dots with AEDC through our power cohort, through a lot of our other Allentown works, also filing all of the financial information, which is an unbelievable task in itself, and is an all-around great resource at the city. We're so lucky. So she's here as well, even though she gets blurred a little bit in the background and as my partner here. So Vision 2030 is the city's comprehensive plan. It was done in 2019. It serves as the city's overall comprehensive and economic development plan. At that time, it gave us a 10-year framework to guide inclusive and equitable growth in many categories, including economic development, housing, accessibility, connectivity, services and amenities, and living systems. And all of those elements are woven together into our Allentown Works strategy. Our economic development goal in Vision 2030 is for the city to build a strong and resilient and diversified economy whose vibrancy improves the health and well-being of residents and their families. And the most notable way that we've been able to work towards that goal is through Allentown Works, which already got a really great introduction. It's our $20 million federal grant program through the U.S. EDA's Distressed Area Recompete Pilot Program. It's a mouthful. So whenever we say recompete, that was the original grant funder. We've now given it a new name, Allentown Works, to make it specific for Allentown. But if we use those two terms, they're somewhat interchangeable to describe our new initiative. So why workforce development? For those of you who know our mayor, Mayor Turk, he's committed to a safer and healthier, cleaner Allentown for all of residents. A quote from him, one of the things that we do in cities is to make sure our residents have a good opportunity to lead better lives. And one of the paths to lead a better lives is to get a good job. And that is at the heart of this initiative. Also, important to Allentown's historical development, Allentown grew up as a manufacturing city. We did suffer some challenges, just like the entire country when manufacturing declined, but it is not a loss. And in fact, we're still performing quite strong. And some of the data from LVEDC compares our manufacturing GDP output as 60% in the region versus 11% nationwide. So all of that tells us that we're still making things in Allentown, and we look forward to leaning into that for our future. So through all of the initiatives, we're working towards making sure that we're creating the right conditions to allow residents to succeed. In addition to Allentown Works, the workforce initiatives, we've taken other steps, including updating our zoning codes to make sure that manufacturing and other high employment generating uses are widely allowable throughout the city. And we continue to explore new partnerships. So with the Allentown Works program, this started in 2024 with really just the seed of an idea. We heard there was a grant opportunity out there, and we had no idea it would take on a whole new bold life of its own. So what started as a grant idea became an entire coalition of providers. And the thing that makes Allentown Works different than some of the other workforce development is that the program isn't just about upskilling. It's about identifying the barriers to workforce participation. And that's a little different than the traditional programs. So two of the barriers that are most notable in Allentown were transportation, a lack of reliable transportation, and childcare. Those were identified as two of the biggest barriers beyond just skill-based initiatives. So this program attempts to address those issues first. We also have in Allentown 80% of our residents leave the city during the day. And likewise, 80% of Allentown's jobs are held by commuters. So our work is not close to many of our homes, and we're trying to change that. This puts a strain on our transportation network, and for many of the households, it makes the commute unrealistic or impossible. So these are the types of challenges, in addition to the traditional workforce challenges, that we're trying to work together with all of our partners on. It's a cross sector coalition, and it's all about getting all of the right people around the table. So childcare providers are now collaborating with transportation leaders and community-based organizations and economic development organizations all together to take their piece of the puzzle to make it all work together. The prime age employment gap is one of the main targets that we're trying to change. Distress. So a prime age employment gap is the percentage of adults ages 25 to 54 who are participating in the workforce. And it's our comparison compared to the national comparison. So anything over 5% signals distress. In Allentown, our prime age employment gap is 5%. Once you get to the Allentown Works footprint, so those communities, it's 12%. In some of those areas, it's as high as 25%. So to solve that gap and to bring it back down below the national average, we think we need to connect 650 people, 650 residents to employment by 2030. And that's the prime goal of the program and what's influencing all of the other elements of that program. We are looking to work with all of our longstanding relationships and partnerships throughout Allentown and the Lehigh Valley. Now, we also realize in City Hall, most of those things need to happen in other places that have nimble, flexible structures. So we're proud to partner with AEDC, who you're going to hear about from with great detail, to talk about how we took these ideas and original visions and implemented it into a robust program.
That's amazing. Thank you, Jennifer. What a great overview and kind of explanation of the role of the city and the commitment. So thank you so much. Appreciate you kicking off our conversation today. We are certainly blessed and fortunate to be able to hear directly from our next presenter. It's my pleasure to introduce Scott Unger, Executive Director of AEDC. Scott is a leading advocate for urban manufacturing and appropriate land use practices. He brings more than 30 years of land development experience and project management to his role as Executive Director of the Allentown Economic Development Corporation, a post he has held since 2008. Scott has served as a member of the Allentown Zoning Hearing Board since 2002 and is past president of the Old Allentown Preservation Association. During his tenure, AEDC has continued its long history of revitalizing some of Allentown's most challenging development sites and supporting urban manufacturing. Notable projects include the development of the PPL Center and the redevelopment of the former Allentown Metalworks site as the new home of Eastern Exterior Wall Systems. Scott works tirelessly to advance economic development across the city. We're thrilled he has joined us this afternoon. And Scott, it's my pleasure to turn it over to you.
Well, thank you, Denise. It is our pleasure to be here, and thanks, Jennifer, for doing such a great job explaining the beginning kind of broad spectrum of AEDC and Allentown Works and how we started. And I'll underscore some of the things Jennifer said, which is the application process, while submitted by the city, and I know Trevor Torman did the lion's share of assembling and writing some of that. We had assistance from so many different partners in the application process, most of whom are, and many actually more, are participating as participants in delivering the Allentown Works program as we set to roll it out shortly. ADC has historically been more of a site-specific organization focused really on remediating and taking underutilized or vacant space in the city of Allentown, putting it back into productive use. We've done that for nearly 100 acres in the city. And if you think about that in the suburbs, so that's like one housing subdivision. But when you think about 100 acres within the city limits of Allentown, that's more than 18 contiguous city blocks. It's a tremendous amount of real estate, and we're coming up on, in 3 more years, AEDC will be celebrating our 50th anniversary. So in almost 50 years, we've done 100 acres. So it sounds like that's 2 acres a year. We should probably try and do more. But like I said, it's really challenging to do urban work. The average manufacturing parcel size in the city of Allentown is only 1.5 acres. There are sites that are larger, but we are definitely small footprint manufacturing focused, and that is actually a specific gap that our urban sites program focuses on to support manufacturers. Many of the manufacturers who are seeking really large spaces wind up in the suburbs. They hire site selectors, and they're in large spaces over 100,000 square feet. We try to focus our efforts on 30 to 80,000 square foot spaces, and we operate a 60,000 square foot small business incubator in which we've got about 12 startup manufacturing companies that we're assisting to advance and grow. So that's been ADC's history. We haven't historically been involved in workforce. This is the workforce side of economic development, and I say all the time when I give presentations that if you ask 5 people or 5 economic developers what the definition of economic development is, you're likely to get 5 or 6 answers. So our flavor of economic development has historically been site-based, but with our participation with the city of Allentown and all of the other partners of Allentown Works are stepping into workforce development type parts of economic development, and I'll let Manu explain a little bit of that in more detail in a moment. But the key piece that when we were looking at what was Recompete, what we've now branded as Allentown Works, and again, as Sarah pointed out, Allentown was one of 6 total. There were only 5 other communities in the United States that received Recompete funding. And when we looked at that original notice of funding opportunity, the NOFO, it struck me right away that I'm like, wow, some of the things that they're looking to do could be accomplished by ADC's Urban Sites program. And as Jennifer pointed out, accessibility to jobs is a challenge. So even if you solve all the other barriers, if there's no place for them to work, or if transportation is the primary barrier, our Allentown, our Urban Sites program, by protecting these manufacturing spaces in the city, we're helping to create opportunities for walkable manufacturing jobs so that Allentown residents can get good paying manufacturing jobs without necessarily having to buy a car. And if they do have to buy a car or ride long transportation network out to the suburbs, they've given away a lot of the advantage of the higher wage because they've given it back in terms of transportation. So that's how we got involved, and our Urban Sites program is part of the Allentown Works project. We've actually, before funding was fully available, we bought 2 sites in the city, 2 additional sites in the city, and we're under agreement of sale on a 3rd, and we're negotiating a 4th. So we're actively pursuing more properties in the city to help protect them from becoming other things like U-Store facilities or something that's just not robust in terms of job creation or economic activity. So that is a little bit about how ADC got involved. We periodically step into roles, not exactly like this, but roles like with PPL Center, we were a key lead partner on that. Obviously didn't do it alone. There was tons of other partners and private sector developers. Just like with Eastern Exterior Wall Systems, we often partner with the private sector, but periodically ADC is asked to step into roles that are substantial and in some cases things that have never been done before. So we're somewhat used to being uncomfortable all the time, I'll say. And that's the best lead-in I can give to Manu to give a little bit more detail about the specifics of the program itself and what we're getting ready to roll out very soon.
Perfect. Thank you, Scott. Really appreciate that. As you mentioned, we'll hear next from Manuela Guevara to help us understand the specifics of this program and how it's working. It's my pleasure to introduce our next presenter, the Program Director with Allentown Economic Development Corporation, Manuela. Manuela has a colorful and interesting background. She is an Argentine public policy professional and program manager with experience across government, technology, and community development in both Argentina and the United States. She currently leads the implementation of Allentown Works, which is a 5-year initiative focused on expanding access to jobs. Before she moved to the United States, Manu held leadership roles in the city of Buenos Aires government and also in their National Secretary of Housing. She gained experience in the technology startup ecosystem through her work in marketing and operations at the Forta Foundation. She holds a master's degree from Carnegie Mellon University's Heinz College and a bachelor's degree in political science from the University of Buenos Aires. We are thrilled that she is with us this afternoon and kind of taking the reins on this program. Manu, we can't wait to hear more about it from you.
Thank you so much. It is flattering to get that introduction. I will only ask you to allow me to share because I put together some slides to run through the program specifics as we introduced. We have a lot going on, so as soon as can you give me like ability to share, or maybe share the presentation for me? That would be super useful.
If you click on share, then I can see and add you to it.
Yeah, it says host disabled attendee screen sharing. And I can anyway walk through the slides without the slides, but just in case.
While we take a minute to work on that access, just a reminder, if you have questions as we go through the comments today, please put them in the chat. We want to make sure we get time to address any questions that we have.
Manuela, you should be good now.
Thank you so much. Here we go. Just in case I want to do this.
Brilliant. There we go.
Presentation. Yes.
We see your screen. Yes.
Perfect. So I'm going to skip a little bit of the introduction because you got a really good one already from Jen and Scott. So this is a program, yes, done in partnership with the city and AEDC, leading implementation, but with so many other partners. We have a very specific goal, which is to coordinate resources to reduce the prime age employment gap. Jen was referring to the prime age employment gap as the difference that we have with the rest of with the average prime age employment gap with the rest of the country, and so we are above 5%, and that in workforce federal, let's say, definitions categorize us as a distressed community. So we have a goal to get out of that definition, but mainly to help 659 residents from Allentown to get back to the workforce. So we estimate that we have 1,122 eligible residents. And why do we know this with such clarity? Because it's a very focused program. We're focused on not only the age, so prime age would be between 25 and 54, but also geographically. We are serving and targeting 3 neighborhoods in Allentown that you'll see there, it's like a hammer shape. We are talking about Franklin Park, Center City, and the 1st and 6th wards. So those 6 census tracts are our target population. And our goal is to engage these residents, basically understand where they're at, why they're not working or disengaged with the workforce, and tackle those barriers that we have identified up front that are the key, but any other barriers that could arise. So we're going to use, we want to coordinate. We always say the same thing. We're coordinating and leveraging new and leveraging like existing basically services and partnerships, trying not to create new things where they're not needed, right? And basically making it easier for our residents to navigate the system. Where are we today specifically? Today we are ready to receive and welcoming residents. We are in a soft launch phase, and we are receiving residents through our Resource Navigator team. So our Allentown Works Resource Navigators are actually hosted by the Workforce Board. That's why Sarah was sharing that they are a key partner and a lead partner. And of course they are. And we are doing outreach referrals. And so as we connect people to the navigators, they are running eligibility review and doing that one-to-one assessment to understand what are their goals, where they're at, and basically what's going to be that pathway to employment. Initial supports are going to go around career coaching. So that navigator is going to pass it to a career coach that's going to support them support any participant throughout the whole program, and offer them, depending on their needs, job readiness, English as a second language, childcare, transportation, and/or referrals to other supports or wraparound services that maybe our program doesn't support directly, but we're building those trusted relationships to have those referrals, mainly healthcare and housing to begin with. And so training as well. We have some specific trainings that we are recruiting now for, so that's why I'm pointing them out. An electrical pre-apprenticeship that's hosted by IBEW, and then an introduction to manufacturing that's hosted by LCTI, and a lot of additional short-term training and credentialing that's to come. And we are developing that, leveraging the existing system that the Workforce Board has. So today we're focusing on validating the fit for this audience focused on employers, but I know we have a lot of other other type of organizations in the audience. So today we want to validate the fit, maybe to identify gaps, discuss of how as to how we have developed this network, and basically discuss on how we can keep working on our main goal, which is now connecting the program to real employment opportunities. We've been setting everything up for knocking down the barriers in our language, in our program language, and now we're focusing on making sure that we are creating effective pathways to employment. So what is it that Allentown Works will bring to employers? We can summarize it in prepared local candidates and coordinated support. So we want to make sure that employers understand that from our program, they're going to get candidates that are supported, that have been prepared for that, and that we are not going to just get them to the door and let's say turn away. We are focusing on retention as well, not only getting to the door, and also increasing their opportunities after that first job, or maybe not their first job, if they're actually returning to the workforce. So basically, employers are not expected to solve every barrier alone, and this is what we want to share today. This is a participant's journey, no? So I wanted to share with you how participants are supported and what their journey would be for them. So in these 6 steps, any resident would go meet a resource navigator, do an intake, then they would develop that one-to-one goal plan and follow through that plan with a career coach hand in hand. And that career coach will always be doing an ongoing needs assessment. And with that, we mean that what we think it's our stronger piece in this program, and the different thing that we're adding to what is already available, are the wraparound supports and the connections and the coordination. So that ongoing needs assessment is also something very key that has to be done by our coaching, but that will be done by our coaching partners at every step of the way. And with childcare and transportation, we hope that, because at intake, someone could go and maybe just either not need it at that point, or just not identify it. Like someone may not have shared their whole need or their full need for support. So as they are going through the program, either through training or preparing through receiving any other type of support, this ongoing needs assessment is going to be key. So prepare and support, again, here preparing in terms of basic skills, or GED, or foundational skills. So many ways to call these skills nowadays. Soft skills, we could have a whole discussion about that. But they would be preparing, getting the support that needed, and then that match would be that employer connection based on readiness and the job fit. That would be one by one case. And basically, of course, someone could just go from step 1 to step 5, right? Like a little bit of, there's so many user pathways that could come out of this program. And then our follow-up. We are committed to 6 months of retention support to begin with, making sure and knowing that that's also a key piece of why our prime age residents, let's say, are unemployed. Also, not only because they can't get a job, many of them have worked before, but maybe the retention part is a key part that we need to also work on and support them. Who are our coaching partners? And I wanted to point that out: the Central Promise, PA Career Link, and also the St. Luke's Workforce Development Center. So they are our key partners that basically all of our participants will go through, or will be connected and will work with one of these 3 partners at least. When we're talking about training pathways, we're talking about short-term credentialed and employer-informed pathways. As I mentioned, we're leveraging the Workforce Board's ETPL eligible training providers list. Correct me, Sarah, if I'm wrong. But that system exists, and what we are focusing on is adding and providing more foundational skills to support also the entry requirements that people need to get to any training. We've done we put the electrical pre-apprenticeship and the introduction to manufacturing courses from hosted by Allentown Works. Those were not existing before. They were offered to the electrical pre-apprenticeship, for example, was offered to students, but not to adults. So those are, let's say, hosted or sponsored by Allentown Works. And then all the rest are trainings that are existed out there, but we are really open. And here, one of the asks that we want to share with you is to make sure that we're considering and evaluating all the other trainings opportunities that may exist out there, and also discuss with employers directly what are the trainings that you might have in place or you might need to have in place for any future needs, future hiring needs that could be coming that we could discuss on. Going to my next slide, and I was kind of getting there already. We think that there's so many pathways that people will get through this program, right? Depending on what they need, they're going to get in touch, and they're going to engage and basically receive support and services from different partners. But from AEDC's point of view, coordinating all of this, we think there are different ways to engage today for you to either refer us to someone else or engage directly, either with hiring options and or industry awareness options. So sharing openings, interviewing candidates, of course, hosting hiring conversations or information sessions, offering site visits, and all the work that can be derived from identifying roles that are suitable for Allentown Works. We could work on that with AEDC, and then next with the navigators, and make sure that we're building a pathway for these people to the openings that you have. In a second, role shaping. So we have the curricula for our two courses that we are sponsoring, but then for all the other trainings that we're offering, the job readiness courses, and all of those, like that curricula being reviewed by employers directly, that means a lot, and of course provides us with the assurance that we're going through the right path. And then, of course, sharing with us other required skills or other credentials that we should think of. That was what I was kind of going to in terms of training. And lastly, support. As we said, we have a network of trusted partners to refer people to. But that we know that we need to keep working on and keep growing, because we really don't know what each person is going to need. And we know there's so many good and trusted services offered out there already. So this would be our third way that we invite you all to consider being part of this initiative today. This is kind of to close, but of course, open to questions now in terms of how you all think you could start building with us and be part of this if you're not part already, because I know there are partners here in this call. So basically, I'll just maybe stop presenting so I can see the rest of the people, because I'm not seeing anyone, and open it up for questions and conversation.
Perfect. Manuela, thank you so much. I'll start us off with a couple questions that have come through to me, and then certainly, please, I encourage the audience to chat in their questions. We want to make sure that this is the opportunity to really share feedback and help to be part of this program. So, what a great gift to those of us participating today. Jennifer mentioned in the objective of this program, removing barriers to employment, right? And we heard about the 1,200 individuals who are kind of the target audience. And two of the barriers she mentioned are transportation and childcare. And, through the perspective of the chamber, we're hearing those same barriers across the Lehigh Valley, particularly childcare, both access to childcare and cost of childcare. So, Manuela, could you talk a little bit about that barrier and some of your plans to address that and allow people who, would like to have childcare to find it, afford it, and be able to work?
Yes. So our childcare strategy, first of all, we're the partners that are involved in this part of the work. It's Community Services for Children, the Lehigh Valley Community Foundation, Resurrected Development Corporation, and 1, 2, 3. I think that's it to begin with. But basically, we have CSC, yes, Community Services for Children. So basically, this childcare strategy is gonna tackle demand and supply. So when we say wraparound services and support for the participants, we're talking about directly a subsidy that's going to allow them to get childcare support while they're looking for work, and a little bit after they get that job also, to allow them to transition and also have that that period of transition, not only on getting the job but paying for it, right? Paying for childcare, I mean. So CSC already works, and it's Community Services for Children. They are the local agency for all the early childhood education supports from the state. So basically, they are the experts, and they are the ones that are going to run and offer this subsidy. And with all the providers that they're already working and all the work that they do already, they're not only going to provide the subsidy, but help the participants to pick and choose the provider that they are, like a provider that fits their needs, either location or if it's the type of service. So that, to begin with, they're going to get the guidance in order to get that support, and also the guidance in terms of if they are eligible, for example, for childcare works, which is the subsidy that would be available after they get a job, that they would also like go with them through that transition. And if they are not, because hopefully they got a good paying job that gets them, kind of over the eligibility threshold, that would be a good bad news in terms of you can, and you're in a very good position and you can pay for your childcare now, and we're going to help you transition that in a couple of months, so it's not abrupt. So that on the demand side of things, and then on the supply side of things, it's more complex, but at the same time more interesting. We're aiming to develop the local childcare providers in Allentown that are we have center-based providers and home-based providers. So for both of them, and also focusing a lot on home-based providers because the majority of them are home-based providers, we are developing quality cohorts that are going to help them increase their quality. And why do we do that? Because there's state programs that give you reimbursement every time you get into a higher quality standard, and this is rated in stars. That's the stars Keystone program from the state. And so getting our local providers through that system and allowing them to get further, like more reimbursement per kid, is going to allow them to perform better, but then to provide more slots, better rates, so addressing affordability from those lenses. And our partners are working all together to offer not only the service, the coaching to go through that program, but also the support in terms of, for example, Resurrected Life. They're going to be a partner that has already done that, has gone through that journey, and is going to be able to provide some peer-to-peer support and mentorship type of support for them to be able to succeed, because we know it's really good to get to the end and get the reimbursement, but it's really hard to go through all the process. There's a lot of paperwork and a lot for them to learn, change, and go through as they go.
Yeah. I think that's amazing. The guidance through that process, I think, will be so useful because it's not easy. We hear that all the time, how challenging it is to, identify childcare and go through the process and the waiting list and all that takes. So certainly wish you all good fortune with that. I think that's huge. We are getting questions coming in. I'd like to start with a question from Christian. And I think, Manu, these are mostly going to be geared to you. Christian says, what specific eligibility criteria is being considered when someone is looking to utilize these services?
Perfect. The criteria is, we're talking about 4 things. It's simple. They have to live in one of the 3 neighborhoods that we are targeting. They have to be between 25 and 54-year-olds. They have to be unemployed at the moment of intake, and they have to be willing and aiming to get a job. And with that, the journey would begin.
Great. And kind of to piggyback on that question, you specifically mentioned manufacturing, healthcare with St. Luke's. You mentioned the electricians program. So Marissa has a question here. What other high opportunity industries would you be looking to partner with?
Perfect question. We are already focusing on urban manufacturing, yes, and healthcare. And I think, actually, Sarah, I think you would be better suited to answer this question in terms of the high opportunity industries that we have in our area.
I turned my camera off instead of unmuting. I guess I didn't want to take that one. No, so that's a great question. So the project in particular, right, the Lehigh Valley's top two industry sectors as it stands today is healthcare and manufacturing, which is why this grant application specifically called out those two industry sectors. I think part of it and really what it's gonna come down to for employment placement is whatever we can make that's walkable distance for the Allentown community. So back to Scott's point in terms of we want to bring business into those three neighborhoods, ideally to support folks with getting employment. So that could be, I could see a lot of retail jobs that could be popping up at businesses. We'll probably be looking a lot at entrepreneurship too and helping folks to expand their own businesses to become self-employed. So again, it's we want to get folks a sustainable job. And so whatever sector that happens to fall into, it could be hospitality, it can be transportation and warehousing, manufacturing, healthcare. We just want to make sure that they have access to that job and that there's sustainable growth for them in that role. And again, healthcare, manufacturing are our top two, but it's not exclusive to those. So hopefully that answers your question.
I love that, Sarah. I wouldn't even have thought of like entrepreneurial skills, like teaching them how to kind of start their own. Like, how exciting is that for someone to be presented with the gift of support in that type of pursuit? I love that. The questions are rolling in, Manu. Here we go. Vincent has a great question, and he says here, will the childcare and transportation support cover off-shift schedules? Because manufacturers run 24/7. Schedules are 8 and 12-hour shifts. And we do hear this. We do hear like, my specific needs. If I want to work, I'm offered like a third shift, but I can't find transportation. Has that been part of your conversations to accommodate kind of that broad spectrum of need?
Yes, and of course that's a perfect question. We are also we will support those shifts, and also it's going to depend on the childcare piece, on the availability of slots. We know there are, but that's why we're working on creating more, and also creating incentives for home-based providers to be able to provide those 24-hour cares that they do provide today, but we need more slots. So everything kind of, it's the egg and the chicken. And so that's what we're working on both sides of that reality. And in transportation, same thing. We can support someone to get the job once or for a couple of months. We're going to provide them fast passes. But then what we actually aim to work on for this to be more sustainable is, after learning more of what our participants are needing and understanding the jobs they're getting, and talking to the employers and talking to you as well. Our transportation coalition that I'm going to mention is led by LANTA, so the local transportation authority. We're going to get in touch with you employers to make sure that we can offer something new. We can pilot new things. So we're not doing that now because we're just entering our participants through the workflow. But apart from supporting them in a one-to-one, we want to pilot initiatives that are more sustainable in the future. Yeah.
I love that. I have to tell you, what I'm hearing is that, this resource, Allentown Works, is going to solve problems that are going to benefit the entire valley, right? I think you're going to uncover models that are successful and that just become an example for other communities. I just think the reach of this is so wonderful and so broad. Lisa Brown with Education That Matters has a question. She says, are any of the initiatives considering AI support services or learning and training with AI? Has that, maybe Sarah, has that been part of the conversation? What are your thoughts on AI and how it might impact this training opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, I can certainly let Manu speak to the specific training providers, but it has come up in conversation. We tell this to all of our job seekers that using AI and particularly prompt engineering as a skill set, which is where you're actually entering in a prompt to have an output that you're hoping to get from AI, is really critical. So I think with the training providers that are going to be onboarding as partners, all types of digital literacy, including AI, will certainly be incorporated as kind of those essential skills or employability skills to make sure that folks have that baseline. And then when they enter into more extensive training programs, we know that they'll be successful. So certainly a part of the conversation. I think we're still in the building phase for building out those additional trainings. And I'll actually use that as a window. I don't think we said it today yet. This program runs through about the end of 2029. I don't think we gave the timeline. So as we're thinking about this contextually, that 659, participants that we're hoping to serve is by about the end of 2029. So we have a couple more years to get folks through the program. And we just had our soft launch just a couple of weeks. So we're now just about ready. We have the infrastructure for our resource navigators to start taking these referrals. So we really wanted to have this forum today to get the community involved as we're still in the early stages to make sure that we can make these adjustments before we're, deep into the program. So the more feedback, the more suggestions is always appreciated. And Manu, I'm not sure if you have anything to add to that.
You said it greatly. I just want to add that on the employer, on the training and employer engagement side of things, we are going to launch in July a partnership with Accelerators for America and the Skills Initiative. The Skills Initiative has worked in Philadelphia with a very successful method that basically connects people to jobs, but in cohorts, and it's employer-led. So our whole program, as you might, maybe we didn't label it that way, but you might perceive already that we were participant focused, let's say, from barriers to employment. And now we are making sure that when our residents and participants are ready to get to that job, we are able to expand the employers partnerships that we have so far. So that's what we're doing with them as well. And so Accelerators for America is a national coalition, and they partner with the Skills Initiative. And after a request for proposal that we put out, they came with a very interesting proposal to in 8 months, basically implement a model that was very successful in Philadelphia. And to do that, they're going to be interviewing employers and other workforce, regional workforce partners and local workforce partners. So we envision that from there, like something key from this program is that the trainings that are going to be developed and taught have to be in cohort style. So we're talking now about bigger employers, and that's where we could possibly, and sharing this hasn't started yet, where we could possibly fit these bigger needs or like big employers needs, and it could fit better an AI strategy or like a training strategy that's beyond what's being offered today, let's say.
Wonderful. Sheila has texted in, given how transient our city is, I think you mentioned 80% in, 80% kind of that statistic. She asked, though, if someone is living on the census tract when they begin the program, but later move outside of the area, the 3 communities you mentioned, will they still be eligible to continue with the support of the program?
Yes, they will. And that was a great discussion and very thorough discussion that I was part of in part, but I know the city and Scott and Trevor with Jen and Huda were discussing a lot with EDA, even in the submission side of things during 2024, let's say, and 2025, because yes, supporting someone doesn't mean that they cannot, like if they want to do better and if that means they go somewhere else, if they don't choose to stay, that's not a requirement. But also we must say that this program, we're aiming for people to choose to stay in Allentown, let's say. But being very specific, if they move across the street, they won't be ineligible. They have to be there at the moment of intake.
Perfect. Great.
Yeah.
Scott, I wanted to ask you, AEDC, you kind of mentioned historically is really about sites and development and redevelopment. How does this represent kind of an evolution of your mission and kind of your role with the community?
I think it's a number of different things. I think what's been really underscored today, I was trying to count, as Manu specifically noted partners, and I think I lost track at like 14 or 15. So just in today's presentation and discussion, I think we're at 14 or 15 partners. So it's more than really just a new mission or an alignment or a change in our mission. It's really just us acting as a convener and a connector to help coordinate all of those efforts into a common mission or goal. So we're still very much focused on our core competencies internally, but this is just an extension of it's logical, it's a symbiotic connection, because cities are very, very complex organisms, and so only focusing on one piece. And we have a great group of partners here in the city who have been doing good work for decades. And I think one of the reasons our recompete application scored so well is because of that. And so now the trick is, and it's already happening, is to get all of us, being coordinated and working together in a very deliberate and intentional way to help the prime age employment gap improve substantially.
I love that. I think this is just such a great unifying, focused effort. Jennifer, I want to ask you, we are in a very select group that received this grant and these funds. And certainly, it was a process where we had to put our best foot forward and demonstrate that we could return this investment and have a positive impact. Why do you think Allentown was selected? What do you think really made us a standout in that process, to be, again, one of these select few that have this opportunity?
I think it was the collaboration and the approach. We worked with so many community partners, and Trevor Torman, who's not here today, most of you probably know him. He really led the effort, but he brought together so many different stakeholders and really came together to address many of the different barriers and give a kind of coordinated, cohesive, diverse approach. And I think also through the partnership of the city and AEDC having this additional partner then to implement these programs that might be outside of what a traditional city would offer. So we have both the strength and stability of the city and then also a more nimble partner. So I think all of those factors come together. And if it weren't for all of the support and expertise that went in through the various organizations in the development of the original application, it wouldn't have been as successful as it was.
I love that message, and I think it's just a great example of what makes our region so special and Allentown so special. So,
and Denise, can I also chime in too? I think one thing, and Scott maybe was gonna jump to this point, but what I've heard from the other applications as well, or the awardees rather, is the Allentown Works program is an isolated geographic area, serving a very specific population, whereas most applications and folks from the other areas, their service area was, 15, 20 counties in some sense. So I think that there was real appeal for this kind of focused effort and concentration of resources that's backed by data to support the population that needs it the most. And I'll turn it to Manu and Scott. I think you were gonna hop in on that, but
I was going to hop in, but I wasn't going to say that. So thank you.
All right.
I agree with you. I think another component of it, and we were fortunate to be part of trying to think of the
Community of practice?
Yeah, a community of practice with Harvard. And I think I don't know if they did it deliberately or if it was by chance, but it must have been deliberately, that had 3 recompete awardees and 3 applicants who did not receive grants. And so we were able to participate in that with the city. And that was very educational. And I think one of the things that we heard, we also did one of all of the Pennsylvania applicants as well too. And I think one of again, everything Jen said and Sarah said is true. I think another element that was unique to ours is the focus on manufacturing. And early on, I think Denise reiterated some LVDC data that I reiterate 3, 4, 5 times a week sometimes. But yeah, the fact that the Lehigh Valley is 16% of our GDP comes from manufacturing compared to 11% nationally. I think that resonated as part of the success of the application. Again, I think it was a whole bunch. We put together as a team and a community a very, very comprehensive piece. And I think even beyond manufacturing, the urban sites, I don't recall hearing from other applicants like that end piece. So if you remove all the barriers, but they actually don't have some place they can go to work that they can get to, or that even employs people at a rate or a salary that's sustainable, you haven't completely solved the problem. So I felt like the urban sites, the real estate portion of it was was one that was not probably included in a lot of the other applications. I don't know, it was never, but I think that was one of the pieces that made it unique, along with the other things that Jen and Sarah raised.
I love that. Thanks everyone for those responses. And it kind of makes you feel like we're really in the midst of something special. But I want to kind of challenge Manu with this next question. I think the slide said there were 1,000, 1,122 people in this population, this target population. And the goal was 650 people through this program, successfully employed, thriving by 2030. That's about a 58% success rate, right? So I'm sure it won't be easy. What do you think will be the greatest challenge you'll have in getting this, reaching those goals and getting this up and running?
I think, yes, it's first of all, as you pointed it out, that's why we put it there so big, because it's so clear. Like we could even go get the 1,000 and have 1,000 conversations and go from there. So I would say that's a plan B. But the challenge is going to be, I would say at the beginning, basically getting the trust of the participants and getting to those. We have a lot of pathways set and a lot of supports, a lot of wraparound services available. And it would just be a matter of making sure that we're ready and able to adjust to whatever other thing they need that we didn't think of. So honestly, I think the challenge would be just getting the people to the door, getting the people to trust us and go through the process to begin with. But then more than that, the challenge itself is going to be us being able to pivot, to be flexible, to adjust as a coalition to those needs. Because being it so focused, we can't afford saying the majority needs this. That's what we can't afford. We don't have that chance. We just need to make sure that we understand what each one of them needs, because they are our target population, and we can't go anywhere else to get people that could, make us get to the numbers, if you want to put it that way. So that entails,
It's certainly, it just isn't a one size fits all. Like these are individual families and individual people that we're trying to provide support towards their self-found success, and that's hard to package into a single environment or container. So and I think Manu's absolutely right. It's going to be our ability to pivot as we learn from these individuals what their true needs are. One of the things that we had a year-long strategy development process that was also funded through an EDA grant of $500,000. We had tremendous amount of conversations with consultants and partners about trying to anticipate what we think these barriers could be. And we all, and as you said, Denise, you hear all the time from people you interact with that childcare is a challenge, is an issue. But it may very well be, some of the populations in these neighborhoods are multi-generational in one household. We may find out that some of them have substantial elder care needs. And so it's going to be our success will be partially driven by our ability to adapt and provide those supports that we hadn't already completely teed up in the full package.
I love that, because it's a program not where the individual has to fit the program, but you're tailoring the program to fit the individual. What a great model. We are getting some more questions. And I know, Sarah, you mentioned, Manu, that you want people to be able to trust you in that process. It's really important. And I know we have some of the folks from your organization on the call, and Sarah was going to introduce them. Real quick, Sheila does say, given how dense our center city neighborhoods are, how do we get to the 1,100 people who are the target audience? I know you mentioned some outreach, and you've got now partners with the Workforce Board. Sheila, thank you for that question. That's the purpose of this call, to continue to provide the feedback. I'm hoping this isn't a once and done session, that we can maybe reconnect with you, talk about progress, what you've learned, what you've modified. But Sarah, I think it's a perfect opportunity in the seconds we have left, if you could just introduce us to this team so that we can become their champions, endorse, and watch this program.
Yeah, thanks, Denise. I figured we couldn't have a conversation on Allentown Works with our dream team of four that's here on the call. So we were able to recently onboard four new staff to really help facilitate the Allentown Works program. So we have Deja Wilson on the call, and she will be our resource navigator coordinator and really kind of taking the lead and making sure that all of those referrals are in. We have Nelly Ramirez, we have Jeffrey Espinola, and Tharsis Rodriguez. So I had to give them a plug. I'm sure we can pop some emails in the chat, but those are the folks that if you're interested in sending specifically referrals for the program, if you know somebody that lives in those priority neighborhoods that might be in that prime age employment, please connect with them. They're fantastic people. I can vouch for them myself, but we're really excited to get this kicked off. So I just wanted to make that announcement.
Perfect. Thank you. And Jennifer, I hope you're seeing Sheila's text or chat in. She said, the website isn't working for me. Perhaps I can ask you to connect with Sheila and just make sure she has access to the information she's seeking. And what a rapid hour we've had. On behalf of the Workforce Board, Lehigh Valley, and the Greater Lehigh Valley Chamber of Commerce, thank you for joining today's Engage Roundtable, sponsored by the PA Department of Community and Economic Development. Thank you so much. Congratulations on this exciting project. We can't wait to hear more. Have a great afternoon.